When I look at the range of roles Mamuka has executed in the last year or so, I can only think that it is the diversity many actors dream of pulling off. The legend has the ability to pull off a commercial gangster film like Bhishma Parvam, a psychological thriller like Rorschach, an immersive human drama with Lijo Jo's Pillissery, a cop investigative thriller like Kannur Squad, and probably the most risky family drama with Jeo Baby all in the span of 2 years. It is the liberation that most actors want to strive towards, where they do not feel restricted under the assumption that their fan base only expects a certain genre of film. Seeing a veteran like Mammootty evolve over the years may be so emotional for loyal Malayalam cinema fans. I say this because my exploration of his legacy only started in the last 6 to 8 years, and the impact of Kaathal the core for the cinema lovers from Kerala is deeper than I imagined. I was reading a thread about this on Twitter written by Nidhish on how Mammootty and the characters that he played over several decades did spew a lot of regressive ideas and imparted the restrictive idea what it means to be a real man. So seeing the growth adaptation of a legend who does movie like Kaathal the core with a creator like Jeo Baby just showcases to you the fearless attitude of a man who not only stars in it but backs the project as a producer. Kaathal the core focuses on Matthew Devasey played by Mammootty, who is a retired bank manager standing up for the local panchayat elections. In the midst of being in the public eye as his posters get plastered across the district, his wife Omana played by Jyotika shocks everyone by filing for divorce, to the horror of a mostly conservative environment claiming that he is homosexual. The reactions that follow as Matthew is still fighting for the elections and side by side dealing with the divorce case and his own demons forms the basic premise of this hard-hitting, leisurely paced and important film from Malayalam cinema. The one aspect of Jeo Baby's craft that I absolutely fell in love with was his effective nature of communicating his politics through his screenplay while never even in the slightest making you feel like he is giving you a moral lecture or cornering you to feel a certain way. This was something so effectively done with The Great Indian Kitchen, where the subjugation in the patriarchal setup was gut-wrenchingly portrayed through the characters and the way they live with one another, versus ever transitioning to a heavy-handed soliloquy to spoon feed the audience. I state that Kaathal the core is leisurely paced because it has this unassuming quality to hit you like a brick wall with its emotions. Its first half almost seems like routine everyday life, and the brilliance of Adarsh Sukumaran and Paulson Sakaria's writing is that even when the core conflict of the film is introduced, you're constantly out of the loop. Its organic nature of never addressing the elephant in the room is exactly how most Indian families would find it most convenient, beating around the bush than ever discussing the real issue. It's the accurate manner in which most families are comfortable talking about everything under the sky, from world politics, social norms and customs, if they're prevalent outside the confines of their homes. But when it does become the issues of their own flesh and blood, one is rather comfortable to be blissfully unaware while the problem itself is right in front of them. This frustration sets in with you as a viewer, intentionally formulated by the makers, enhanced further as Matthew is a man of few words. He barely communicates with his own wife. He never sees his own father eye to eye, and you clearly identify that he may be fighting demons that you have no clue about. Matthew is more than comfortable in sorting out marital issues of strangers as an election candidate, but the real issues within his household are consciously avoided. Jeo Baby meticulously generates interest within you as a viewer. Jyotika, after a casual conversation in bed with his husband, shifting to the edge, stares at the distance, almost confirming that she has been suffering for years, silently and patiently. There are several moments of silence in the film that say so much. This is further developed as Mammootty sees his reflection in the mirror. The film constantly works between the idea of how Matthew projects himself versus who he really is, and it is this subtle nature of exploring these themes about the LGBTQI community that may just make people break down. For the universal struggle a section of the population still has to deal with in a mostly conservative and the restrictive country we live in today. The film provides a reflection of our community very well. The fast nature with which rumors are spread, the instant judgment and isolation one is subjected to, the ridicule that can be debilitating for so many, and the art of the public Just like the boogeyman, never addressing it specifically, but only hinting at it, it is such an accurate representation of us as a community and the years it would take us to be truly evolved and accepting of all. It is only in the confines of the court as the divorce proceedings commence where you explore the details of this dynamic and 20-year relationship. While Mammootty is receiving so much praise and deservedly so, I must say Jyotika is exceptional in this film, for she presents Omana as a woman who has become a shell of her former self, almost stoic in her demeanor, never raising her voice, never overtly expressive. Her body language and tone almost comes across as if it's been years of pent-up unresolved issues that have made her a version of herself that she can't recognize. It is this conformity of what is expected of a man in Indian society versus who he really is. It becomes the central theme of the film. What makes the movie even more heartbreaking as this core is explored is that Matthew and Omana essentially are very cordial with each other while dealing with their divorce. What crushes you is that they care for one another, have genuine love for each other. Matthew holds Omana's purse when she goes up on the stand to testify against him on how cruel he's been for robbing her of her youth. They air out their dirty linen in court and drive back home together. And this makes this film such a gem of two people wanting to be free and still understanding the complexity of why they felt compelled to conform. Mammootty at 72 exploring such complex social themes through his films and more importantly, effectively so, is something to marvel at. And when I say that the rush of emotions hit you like a brick wall in this film, it could not be more accurate. For the last 30 minutes of the movie, I found myself completely breaking down. The scenes Mammootty shares with his father and his wife will really make you clap for the legend, for what he has so effortlessly pulled off for such a complex theme and character. Mammootty's eyes, his voice breaking down, his call for empathy and warmth. Finally, when he is free, it almost seems like Matthew can be himself now. The stern, cold and stiff man suddenly seemed to have let go, coming out of what was a lie all his life. It all shapes together so beautifully, and I would highly recommend you watch Kaathal the Core in a theatre near you. It would make you appreciate a legend who has evolved and adapted like no one else across industries in India.